We're going to speak on the Pune Pact. Everybody knows about that. And this Pune Pact, which was signed between Gandhi and Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar in 1932. The title which I have formulated like this, that is the Pune Pact, Promise, Compromise and Perfidy. Here let me elaborate on the three words which are in the title. That is the promise which was given by British government, then compromise by compromising on the conditions, the provisions of the of the communal award declared by Ramsay MacDonald, the British Premier. Babasaheb Ambedkar had to compromise on the communal award, and then after communal award, the Congress and Gandhiji, how they proved to be perfidious, means that is called the betrayal of the promises they had given, and then the scheduled caste candidate, the different class candidates had to put at loss because of the Congress policy. This is about the title of this topic and its speaking. Let me begin with the British government had already started the introduction of the constitutional reforms from Act of 1909, then Government of India Act 1919, which was popularly known in the modern Indian history as the Morley-Minto reforms and Montagu-Chelmsford reforms. The British government has also promised Indians that step by step they will introduce the constitutional reforms, and accordingly they did it, and every 10 years they will take a review of it. Accordingly, when the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms were introduced in 1919 and they were implemented, and that is what before 10 years are over, they started to take a review of the Montagu-Chelmsford reforms and their fruitfulness. Therefore, British government that appointed a Simon Commission under Sir John Simon, and which came in India right from 1928 onwards. To discuss all these issues, British government also convened a roundtable conference in England between 1930 and 33. The British government nominated the representative from the various strata of the Indian society. Due to the failure of negotiations of the Purna Swaraj, as all of you know, that Congress had asked for British government that if they are not able to give us the dominion status within a year, they will declare themselves as the independent nations. That is called as the Purna Swaraj. They will, and accordingly, when Congress applied for that is called as the Motilal Nehru's report, and Motilal Nehru proposed for the dominion status, but British government that did not pay heed to the application or whatever delegation or whatever read that made by the Indian National Congress, and that is what after a year in 1929 the Indian National Congress declared themselves as a Purna Swaraj, or what is called the total independence or complete independence in 1929, and accordingly 26th January was declared as an Independence Day. Means since 1930, 26 January 1930, they started celebrating Indian Independence Day. Means first Indian Independence Day was celebrated by Indian National Congress and all over India as an Independence Day in 1930. And year after year they started celebrating it, means 31, 1932 and vice versa. Meanwhile, the British government convened a roundtable conference. Now, let me concentrate on the roundtable conference. Who were the representatives of the depressed classes? There were only two depressed classes candidates nominated by British government. That was Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar and Rao Bahadur R. Srinivasan. And these two people, they presented the schemes for the rights of the depressed classes as a future constitution of self-government India, along with other members. What actually the schemes provided by Babasaheb Ambedkar and his colleague, that is Rao Bahadur Srinivasan, before the roundtable conference, it is very important, and there some part you will come to know that they were in favor of depressed classes, but more the part of it was in favor of Indian constitution and Indian unity, Indian integrity. Number one, what were their scheme? Miss Babasaheb Ambedkar schemes before the first roundtable conference. That was number one, equality of citizenship. This is equality of citizenship for all. Number two, enjoyment of equal rights in case of social boycott. Means if different classes are boycotted by the upper classes or the caste Hindus, they must have a right of equal enjoyment of equal rights. Then third provision, protection from discrimination in legislature and executive bodies. As all of you know, that is a legislative body, then executive body and judiciary are the three principal pillars of Indian democracy or any democracy, and the media, which is not as official but it is called as the fourth pillar of democracy. The fourth provision in the scheme was that representation in legislation and execution should be given by adult suffrage. Means on what basis they are to be elected legislatures, and that is to be adult suffrage. Adult suffrage means one who is whatever age that will be decided by the government must get the right to exercise the franchise on the basis of adult suffrage. This provision was very significant because before that the elections were taken, though the members to the Legislative Council and Legislative Assembly, central and provincial, they were elected on the basis of not by adult suffrage but by the what property basis and education basis they were decided. Number 5, sufficient provision to be made for the post in government services to deserving candidates. Here deserving candidates and the reservation provisions are to be made. That Babasaheb Ambedkar proposed this scheme before the roundtable conference. Appellate authority. If any rights are violated, there should be the appellate authority which will decide if there is any injustices to the different classes. A special government department of justice means again the special courts which have been actually provisions in the Act of Prevention of Atrocities Act 1989 and subsequently incorporated or continued in the same. They were the provisions in 1931 and 32 onwards. They were made by Babasaheb before the British government. And last one, the representation in cabinet of Government General in Council means Viceroy's Council or Governor General's Council. There should be then representation given to the members of the depressed classes. These provisions were made by Babasaheb Ambedkar in this scheme. After actually the Gandhiji was mostly involved in other activities, and that is what actually he in person was not ready to go to round table conference, and that is what in the first round table conference Gandhiji was not there, though other Congress representatives were there. After the second round table conference was when decided. Then Gandhiji was invited by Lord Irwin and they had an agreement before them, and that is what this pact was called as the Gandhi-Irwin Pact, and Indian National Congress agreed to join the second RTC means I will herein say that is the RTC means round table conference, and Gandhiji represented it. In the second RTC, the main issues were discussed about the provisions made by the Minority Committee and the Federal Structural Committee. This session was the complete debate between Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar and Gandhiji on the issue of separate representation of the depressed classes. This conference was held between 7th September 1931 and December 1st, 1931. In this session, Gandhiji supported the demands of the Muslims and signed the agreement with them of their 14 demands. Means what Jinnah made the 14 demands before the round table conference, they were all demands supported by Gandhiji, so that they must oppose the demands made by Dr. Ambedkar. The provisions of the system were as follows, so that how did it display the picture before us? Let me cite example which has been already mentioned by Babasaheb Ambedkar in his volumes, that Gandhiji in hand took a Quran, copy of the Quran, and went to the Muslim leaders and asked them that I will support all your demand without any distinction, but you will have to oppose the demands made by Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, the representative of the depressed classes. What were actually the provisions? Let me explain you the table. In a table, you will come to know, just I will elaborate on that. See, the two kinds of the legislations were the central legislature and provincial legislature. In central, total seats were 500 seats, and as per the provisions in the round table conference, there should be the 65 seats for the depressed classes, and seats for the Muslims, they were 160. So you can calculate the percentage what Muslims they were having and what depressed classes were having out of 500. Again, central legislature was bicameral, and that is what upper house, that consisted of 200 seats, and out of 200 seats, 20 seats were allotted to the depressed classes and 67 seats were allotted to the Muslims, and others to excluding all these two categories. The lower house consisted of 300 seats, and out of 300, only 45 seats were allotted to depressed classes, and 100 seats were allotted to the Muslims. So far, what was the provinces? The provinces, the situation was that in Assam, total seats were 100, and depressed classes, they received 13, and Muslims, that is the 35. Bengal, 200 seats were in total for the provincial legislature. Out of 200, 35 seats were allotted to the depressed classes and 102 were allotted to the Muslims. In Bihar and Orissa, total seats in the provincial assembly, they were 100, and 14 were allotted to depressed classes and 25 to the Muslim. In Bombay, there had been 200 seats. Out of 200, 28 were allotted to depressed classes and 66 were allotted to Muslim League. In central provinces, 100 seats, and out of 100, 20 seats were allotted to depressed classes and 15 allotted to Muslims. In Madras, out of 200, 42 depressed classes and 32 Muslims. In Punjab, 100 seats in total, 10 were allotted to depressed classes and 51 were allotted to Muslims. And in United Provinces, 100 seats were in total, and out of that 20 seats were allotted to depressed classes and 30 seats were allotted to Muslims in the respective provinces. And how did these provisions had come, and total seats based on what, and depressed classes, total seats based on what, and then allotment to the Muslim League or Muslims representative allotted on what? This allotment, the seats allotment, seats sharing was totally based on the census of 1931. Now, before the roundtable conference, when Mahatma Gandhi was trying to convince the British Premier that the Congress is too representative of the depressed classes and not Babasaheb Ambedkar, What had happened then? Babasaheb Ambedkar received with thousands of the telegrams and from the presidents of the depressed classes union, to mention the Kumaon, Almora in Uttar Pradesh, United Provinces, which stated that what that telegram received by the British Premier, what that state is from Kumaon, not in Maharashtra. I am telling you, not from Maharashtra, but it was Almora, United Provinces. That telegram states this meeting means their meeting, the meeting of the depressed classes union of Kumaon, Almora, United Provinces. That in their meeting they states that this meeting declared its no confidence in the Congress movement. It means they are with Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. Now, Mahatma Gandhi proposed in the Roundtable Conference for another scheme for the welfare of the depressed classes, that is, general electorates and general election. The candidates of the untouchables contesting general election, if defeated, that candidate will have to file election writ petition in the court and let the court prove that he is defeated only because he is untouchable. Can you imagine any depressed classes candidate can prove that he was defeated only to only being the untouchable? It was impossible. Then caste Hindu candidates will have to be replaced by these untouchable candidates, and it was going to happen all the way because he cannot, means depressed classes candidate cannot prove his whatever, because that he has been defeated due to his caste or untouchability, and he will be replaced by the touchable candidates. The root cause of the conflict. Then all of you know about the root cause. There had been the dissensions between Gandhiji on the basis of the depressed classes representation and Gandhiji's opposition to it. But actually seen when these conflicts started, the root cause of the conflict between Mahatma Gandhi and Babasaheb Ambedkar, here I will mention about that. Dr. Ambedkar asked three important questions to Gandhiji in regards to the future constitution of India as follows. What were they? These were the pertinent questions one must focus on. They are as much significant. Number one question. Babasaheb asked Gandhiji, and this was not privately, but it is in the meeting, in the public forum, in the roundtable conference. First one, whether Gandhiji have been authorized by Indian National Congress passing any resolution that he agreed on the members nominated by the princes for legislation. Means Gandhiji had no answer. Question number two, Babasaheb Ambedkar confronted Gandhiji that how he could approve indirect election which is totally opposed by all the party. And third question that Babasaheb Ambedkar asked Gandhiji, that citing the prior example, when Annie Besant, actually Babasaheb Ambedkar, when you will hear his speeches, he pronounces Besant, Annie Besant. Babasaheb Ambedkar's speech, when live you will hear, then you will come to know Babasaheb Ambedkar pronounces Annie Besant, not Besant, is Besant. When Annie Besant's Home Rule brought the same bill, means it was already, Annie Besant had brought that bill, but was rejected by the Indian National Congress, true or not? And then it was the Gandhiji's turn to reply it. When British Premier asked Gandhiji to reply, which Gandhiji refused to do so, because it was very clear that Gandhiji was not prepared to answer studiously of any of the questions raised by Babasaheb Ambedkar. It is quite interesting to know certain comments made on the business of the conference by the scholars as follows. I have chosen only two scholars. There have been many scholars who have commented on Gandhiji's role. Number one, I will mentioned, that is Sir Chimanlal Setalwad. What does Sir Chimanlal Setalwad said? That Gandhiji, you did not study the provisions of the Act of 1919, and how could you express your opinions about the political rights of the Indians? Gandhiji's reply was this. What was Gandhiji's reply? See, very interesting. You are my elder brother. Is this the answer to the question raised by Chimanlal Setalwad? You are my elder brother. You have every right to scold me and make me understand. You listen, to listen you is my duty. That means Gandhiji was only listening because he was not at all prepared to answer any of the questions raised in the round table conference, because round table conferences were organized because to study how the 1919 Montagu-Chelmsford reforms were implemented and what are the pros and cons of that, whether we can add, whether can we have more reforms into that, and that nothing was prepared by Gandhiji. This was proven in the round table conference itself. Another scholar who have commented on Gandhiji's role in the round table conference, that was Mr. Glorny Bolton. He says, truthfully speaking, I quote, truthfully speaking, Mr. Gandhi was lost in London, the old assurance and reliance deserting him. Day after day, Dr. Ambedkar came into greater prominence. He spoke for the untouchables and welfare of India. This was the recognized role of Baba Saheb Ambedkar of India, and even all the newspapers, they also covered Baba Saheb's as a true Indian. And see what criticism that Glorny Bolton has made on Gandhiji had totally lost in London. In this topic, this is part 1, where round table conferences were held, because Pune Pact was the result of the round table conferences only. Part number 2, declaration of the Communal Award 1932. After the second round table conference, British Premier declared the Communal Award in the Parliament on 17th August 1932. It made separate provisions for Muslims, Sikhs, Anglo-Indians, Europeans, landlords, labourers, merchants, and the depressed classes. See how many categories have been here, but no category was opposed by Gandhiji, excluding the depressed classes. The Muslims and the depressed classes rejected this award because of less representation. The Hindu organizations criticized the award that it gave more representations to the Muslims. Means Muslims they rejected, even they found that these are the lesser provisions, but Hindu organizations they criticized that Muslims were having more representations, and this award was actually rejected by depressed classes also. Means Baba Saheb Ambedkar did not accept that award. Then what were the provisions of this award? I have comparatively collected the data which shows you the table is there. The provinces, the provision of the provision for the general seats, the demands of Dr. Baba Saheb Ambedkar, seats allocated or allotted by the Communal Award, and the difference. You will see in Madras province or Madras presidency there had been 153 total seats. Out of that, Baba Saheb Ambedkar had demanded 40 seats, but Communal Award given only 18, means 22 were lost. Means 22 seats, or difference was 22 seats. In Bombay, total 108 seats. Baba Saheb's demands 28 seats. Communal Award gave 10, means 18 at loss. Punjab 43, depressed classes demanded 10, but seats given by the communal award nil, 0, means total 10 seats were at loss. Bihar and Orissa total 88 seats. Baba Saheb Ambedkar demanded 20 seats. Communal award gave 10 seats, means 10 seats were not given, means at loss. In Assam, out of 57 seats, 13 were demanded by Baba Saheb Ambedkar. Only 4 were given, means again 9 is a difference. In Bengal, total 80 seats, 35 seats were the demand of Baba Saheb Ambedkar, and communal award gave only 10, means 25 seats difference was there. United Provinces, 144 seats were in total, and Baba Saheb Ambedkar demanded 20 seats, but communal award gave only 12, means again 8 seats difference. Total 777 seats were there in the whole of the provinces, means all of the provinces. Baba Saheb Ambedkar had demanded 180 seats, but out of 180 seats, communal award only gave 71 seats, means 109 seats were not given. This is actually the loss, and that is what actually this communal award was rejected by the depressed classes. Mahatma Gandhi took this award from the point of view of the separate electorates to depressed classes, and he resolved to bring his protest into practice. He sent a letter to Sir Samuel Hoare, the Secretary of State for India, and Mr. Ramsay MacDonald, the British Premier. The letter sent to Sir Samuel Hoare by Mahatma Gandhi, dated 11th March 1932, he remarked that separate electorates would vivisect and disrupt the nation. Mahatma Gandhi also sent a letter to Ramsay MacDonald informing his decision to go on fast on 20th September 1932. Ramsay MacDonald replied Gandhiji's letter in following way. This is also very important. What Ramsay MacDonald calculated Gandhi's nature and Gandhi's politics. What does he say? Just listen. I quote. Means this is the quote of Ramsay MacDonald in his letter to Gandhiji. He replied to Gandhiji. What does he say? I quote. As I understand your attitude, you propose to secure that the depressed classes should have joint electorate with other Hindus who admittedly suffer from terrible disabilities today. In the light of these very fair and cautious proposals, I am quite unable to understand the reason of the decision you have taken, and can only think you have made it under a misapprehension of the actual facts. Here he mentions the criticism is not open, but he tries to make out the personality of Gandhiji and say that I am not able to understand you, how you can do this. Now coming to the Gandhiji's fast until death. The followers of Gandhiji decided that before the fast start, we should compel Dr. Ambedkar to come for the negotiations with Gandhiji at Eravada and make him agree with Gandhiji's policy. Mr. A.V. Thakkar, popularly known as Thakkar Bappa, met Dr. Ambedkar and had discussions with him. On the day of 18th September, means 2 days before the fast starts, 18th September, Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya also asked Dr. Ambedkar to see Gandhiji. Then Mr. Thakkar and Srimati Perin Captain was the granddaughter of Dada Bhai Nauroji. This Perin Captain, Srimati Perin Captain, with 10 to 15 ladies at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, started slogans before Dr. Ambedkar's office. Dr. Ambedkar was severely annoyed. Then on Monday 19th September, again Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, Mr. Thakkar, Perin Captain and 10-15 Congress followers came to meet Dr. Ambedkar. After long discussion, they had discussions. There was not any conclusion reached to. Then on 20th September, Gandhiji's fast was started as per the decision he had taken and conveyed to the British Premier. Wednesday, second day, 21st September, Baba Saheb Ambedkar submitted his referendum of demands before Gandhiji as follows. What was Baba Saheb Ambedkar's referendum? Number one, representation to the depressed classes in Madras 30 seats, Bombay 20 seats, Bengal 50 seats, Punjab 50, UP 40, Bihar and Orissa 20, CP and Berar 20 and Assam 11. Number one, representation to the depressed classes. Number two, joint electorates with reserved seats. And this system will continue for 10 years and candidates will be selected first and then will be elected. It was provided that there should be 4 candidates by a panel system to be selected. Actually, this provision was proposed by Baba Saheb Ambedkar for 15 years. Later on, it was reduced to 10 years. And the very important, significant provisions which is even today needed in Indian politics, that is, candidate first to be selected by the voters and then that panel will have whatever the candidates, they later on will be elected. Right now, as present, what happens? The High Command, which is staying in Delhi, decide who will be the candidates at Thane. As I am staying in Thane, who will be the Congress candidate at Thane, or who will be the BJP candidate in Thane. That will be decided by the Delhi. High Command is deciding. And actually in practice, you know what politics is played, how the people, the candidates are offering for their candidature to the party fund and etc. Everything you know that. But this provision was actually provided by, made by Baba Saheb Ambedkar, demanded that candidates must be selected and then to be elected. But this was not actually this successful. Third, referendum of demands of Baba Saheb Ambedkar, that is, after 10 years, the primary selection process of the candidates will be terminated. That is selected and elected. Fourth, referendum provisions, demand. Joint electorates with reserved seats should be continued for the next 15 years and then let depressed classes and caste Hindus unanimously decide whether these system to be continued or terminated. 15 years provisions was here. Baba Saheb was under impression that after 15 years these people will come to that let the depressed classes candidate also contest the elections. Fifth referendum of demand, that is proper representation to be given to the depressed classes at the center and the provinces according to their population. If even today 16% they are there, there should be 16% seats in the central as well as provincial legislature should be there. Sixth demand, right to adult suffrage. Actually, right to adult suffrage, we can talk much more on that, but we are moving to the Pune Pact, and that is what I just mentioned about the referendum of the demands of Baba Saheb Ambedkar. Right to adult suffrage. The proper representation in local self-government and district local boards. 8. Referendum of demands. Provision of employments to the depressed classes. 9th. Provision of sufficient funds for the education of the depressed classes. You will come to know that all these provisions are even today there in the government of India. What you see recently the question of promotion to the candidates, SC candidates for the higher studies in foreign universities, it is just like the provision of the sufficient funds for the education of the depressed classes that was made by Baba Saheb Ambedkar in 1932. And a 10th provision we will come to, that is the demand actually, provision of appellate authority. What you say, SC commission like that, appellate authority, that is Governor General and the Viceroy, in case of any discrepancies are found, in the implementation of this representation. Now, this referendum was presented to the Congress representative, Congress activists. Sir Tej Bahadur Sapru evolved a scheme. He studied the referendum of Babasaheb Ambedkar, and then he also shared his own. That was a scheme of primary and secondary elections for the reserve seat in place of separate electorates. Means again, here Tej Bahadur Sapru also not in favor of the separate electorates. Accordingly, the depressed classes, qualified voters in their respective constituencies were to select a panel of not less than 3 candidates, and then out of these 3 candidates, one was to be elected by the joint electorates. These are the provisions, the Sapru plan, Sapru scheme, you can say Tej Bahadur Sapru. Then actually these demands are to be discussed between, means what scheme proposed by Tej Bahadur Sapru and the referendum of demands made by Babasaheb Ambedkar. They are to be put before Gandhiji and discussed between both of them, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar and Gandhiji had detailed discussions, but the talks were not coming to the conclusion. The main thrust was raised upon the issue that the provisions will be for 5 years or 10 years. See, initially these provisions were proposed by Babasaheb Ambedkar for 15 years, then they came to 10 years. Now Gandhiji is asking, means not it was the ultimatum that Gandhiji was giving to Babasaheb Ambedkar for 5 years or 10 years. Then Gandhiji strongly insisted upon, Dr. Sahib, I quote Gandhiji, Dr. Sahib, what do you wish? 5 years or my life? See how the ultimatums are given by the Gandhiji. Means either you have to prefer your demand or you will have to face loss of my life. Means that this actually ultimatum Gandhiji is giving. Then Babasaheb sided from there for the discussion with Chakravarti Rajgopalachari to the little distance. When Rajaji told Gandhiji about the positive discussions, that 5 or 10 years will be discussed afterwards, but at present let us sign the pact. With this, Gandhiji proclaimed, excellent, means the terms and the conditions were came to Gandhiji, that in the 5 or 10 years, then Rajgopalachari had a discussion and then it was concluded, but that actually was not disclosed to Gandhiji, but he trusted Rajgopalachari, and that is what he came to conclusion that excellent. This was actually the exclamation that Gandhiji gave. This agreement then was completed on the 5th day of fast, that was on 24th September 1932. Then meeting was convened on 25th September at Indian Merchant Chamber Hall in Mumbai to finalize the pact. In this meeting, Sir Tej Bahadur Sapru praised Dr. Ambedkar. I quote, Dr. Ambedkar fought and fought valiantly for the cause which he represented, and he promised to be a good fighter in the future life of the country. This is I unquote. Then Babasaheb also addressed the meeting and had interactions with caste Hindus present over there about the provisions of the Pune Pact. The news about this pact was immediately telegraphed to the British Premier in London. But Gandhiji was also reluctant to agree upon unless and until the British Premier signed this, approves it and replies. But it was done by British Premier late night, and then they were telegraphed again, and then Gandhiji was ready to break his fast. On the day of 24th September, the pact was signed by 23 leaders, and next day it was signed by more 18 leaders. The pact was signed by Babasaheb Ambedkar, laid the feeling of nervousness among his followers. When Rao Bahadur Chitle from Ahmednagar asked Babasaheb about the pact, then Babasaheb Ambedkar replied, see, the many people they celebrate. Some people they observe, they celebrate Pune Pact Day, or the and that is what. What did Baba Saheb thought about Pune Pact? Baba Saheb replied to Rao Bahadur Chitle is that, just listen me, I quote him. Baba Saheb's reply, I quote. Baba Saheb says, what could I do, Rao Bahadur? There was Jaikar, Barrister Jaikar, Yamar Jaikar. There was Jaikar behind me with knife in his hand and Sapro in front of me with pistol stretched at my heart. I was helpless. This is, I unquote. His Majesty's government member Mr. H.G. Haig declared on Monday, 26 September 1932 in the Central Assembly about the approval of the Pune Pact by the British government. I will just read out the signatories of the Pune Pact on 24th September 1932. Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya, Sir Tej Bahadur Sapru, M.R. Jaikar, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, R. Srinivasan, M.C. Raja, C.V. Mehta, C. Rajgopalachari, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, G.D. Birla, Rameshwar Das Birla, B.S. Kamath, then G.K. Devdhar, A.V. Thakkar, R.R. Bakhale, P.G. Solanki, P. Balu, Govind Malviya, Devdas Gandhi, Biswas, P.N. Rajbhoj, G.A. Gawai, Shankarlal Bankar. Let me mention over there, Gandhiji's signature was not there on the pact. His other activists, his own son was there as the signatories. On next day, the signatories they are found, that is the still more 18 signatories. Lallu Bhai Samaldas, Hansa Mehta, K. Natarajan, Kamakoti Natarajan, same, I think it's the same, K. Natarajan and Kamakoti Natarajan, Purushottam Das, Thakur Das, Mathura Das Visanji. This Mathura Das Visanji is the founder of my college where I used to work since 2000 to 2030. That is the MVLU college. MV means Mathura Das Visanji from Andheri, Mumbai. Mathura Das Visanji, one of the signatory was there. Then Walchand Hirachand, H.N. Kunjuru, K.G. Limaye, P. Konandarao, G.K. Gadgil, Manu Subedar, Avantikabai Gokhale, K.J. Chitalia, Radhakant Malviya, A.R. Bhatt, Kolam and Pradhan. All these people were their signatory on the Pune Pact. Now, again I have the third table of the provisions. The third table has been made like this. The list of the provinces, the general seats, the demands of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, seats by Pune Pact. What did now given? Again, in communal award, also the demands made by Babasaheb Ambedkar for the seats allocation were not fulfilled. 109 seats were at loss and only 71 seats were allotted. Now here what happens? In Pune Pact, what were the provisions and what seats demanded by Babasaheb Ambedkar and what were awarded? In Madras, out of 153, Babasaheb demanded 33, Pune Pact gave 3, means again 3 at loss. In Bombay, 108 seats were there. Babasaheb demanded 16, Pune Pact gave 15. Punjab, 43 total seats, means Punjab Assembly I am talking about. Babasaheb demanded 10, Pune Pact gave 8. Bihar and Odisha, 104 seats, 20 seats were demanded and Pune Pact gave 18 seats. CP and Berar, 88 seats. Babasaheb demanded 21 but given Pune Pact given 20. Assam, 57 seats. Out of that Babasaheb demanded 8 and 7 seats were given by Pune Pact. Bengal, 80 seats were there. Out of that Babasaheb Ambedkar demanded 37 and Pune Pact gave 30 seats. United Provinces, out of 144 seats, Babasaheb demanded 30 and Pune Pact gave 20 seats. Means if we take a total, that 777 means 777 seats, Babasaheb Ambedkar Pune Pact gave 148 seats, means 27 seats were at loss. This is actually the provisions. Communal award was the promise that 71 seats will be there. Pune Pact was again promised 140 seats, and in that you will find that Babasaheb Ambedkar had to compromise with Gandhiji's life and sacrifice his demands and came to the and also sacrifice demand of separate electorates and then come to conclusion with the 148 province. Overall, you will see that Pune Pact had given, communal award had given, means provided 71 seats, and Pune Pact has awarded 148 seats. Overall, you will see that 71 were very less, and now 148 are quite means good one, handsome one you can see. But what happened? The last part of my this talk is that perfidy by the Congress and Indian National Congress and Gandhiji. The communal award had provided for the untouchables two benefits. Though the seats were very less, but two benefits were there. Number one, fixed quota of the seats. 71 are fixed. 71 candidates sure will be there representing the depressed classes. To be elected by separate electorates of untouchables and to be filled by the person belonging to the untouchables, means only untouchables. Number two, provisions that was made by communal award, that is the double vote. One to be through separate electorates to their own candidates, and other to be used in the general electorates. This was the provision made by communal award, though the seats were very less. Means the depressed classes voters had two voting rights, means double voting. They will 71 seats they will elect, but as also they will elect the general candidates also. It means general means candidates from the general category will also help them in their whatever the questions or the problems and the issues. As against the Pune Pact, which took away the right to double vote, it also provided for the joint electorates instead of separate electorates. The Pune Pact laid an appointment of the Hammond Committee to demarcate the constituencies. The caste Hindus put their contentions before the committee. What the contentions were there? Number one, the panel of 4 to be elected at the primary election is a minimum or maximum. And number two, the method of voting. What will be the method of voting? The compulsory distributive votes and the cumulative system of vote. The provision of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar of primary election of the candidate was nothing but the voters will first select their true candidate and then they will elect their own true candidate. But Congress wanted their own candidates to be selected by their high command, who doesn't know the people of that locality. Means the candidate will be forcefully imposed on the voters. I have already cited the example of that. The candidates belonging to just such a remote area, remote constituency, the candidates will be decided by at Delhi by the high command. So this is totally wrong provisions. Then there came the taste of Pune Pact in the elections held in 1937 based on the Act of 1935. The Congress selected their own candidates who were more loyal to the Congress party than that of the loyal to the untouchable community in true sense of the term. The following table will reflect. I will just mention you about the table. What does that say? How Congress captured the seats of the untouchables by the loyal, untouchable candidates. This is actually my table number 4. I have prepared. See, in Madras, total reserved seats for the untouchables were 30. They are already there. But Congress, you will come to know, you will shock to hear this. Total seats were captured by the Congress were 26. Means whether the 26 out of 30 candidates will always remain loyal to the Indian National Congress. They are not going to remain loyal to Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Bombay, out of 15, 4 were captured by the INC, means INC using it, Indian National Congress. In Punjab, 8 and nothing was, Punjab whole, all seats were captured by the Reserve candidate. Bihar, 15, out of 15 candidates, 11 were captured by Congress. In CP and Berar, out of 27 by INC. Assam, total 7, out of that 4 were captured by INC. In Bengal, 30, out of that 6 were captured by INC. In UP, out of 20, 16 were captured by Congress, means INC. Means out of 151 contested, only 151, 71 seats were captured by Indian National Congress. Means the 78 candidates are not going to remain loyal to Baba Sahib Ambedkar or going to remain loyal with their own community, but they will remain loyal to their own party, and this was there. To conclude this talk, the Pune Pact, if we analyze the background, facts and the findings, then it really create the true picture before us that the Congress and Mahatma Gandhi wanted to save his life, and at the same time they also deprived the true rights of the depressed classes by the joint electorates and the system of vote to select and elect the candidates. Even having the less seats by the communal award, but were the true representatives of the depressed classes, the Congress selected their loyal party candidates and captured the seats of the true depressed classes. And this is actually must be exposed before the people how the Congress that betrayed Baba Sahib Ambedkar, they violated the provisions of the Pune Pact, and how the candidates which they were elected remain loyal to their own party instead of their own community and Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Hereby I conclude my topic. Thank you and Jai Bhim to each and everyone.